If you were ever stranded on a desert island, what single game would you choose to have with you? Minecraft? Slay the Spire? The Binding of Isaac? Great picks, but I personally choose none of those. Not because they're bad, but because I think there's a way better option. A free, yes free, game with a limitless number of possibilities, be it classes, races, builds, loot, dungeons, cities, bosses, super bosses, quests, lore, waifus? That game is one you've likely never heard of before, so please let me enlighten you on the most replayable game ever made. That game is Tales of Maj'Eyal. Tales of Maj'Eyal, also known as Tome 4, is a roguelike, and no, not what you kiddies would call roguelite. This is a true blue bona fide traditional roguelike experience, baby, woo! Meaning that the entire game is procedurally generated, and can, emphasis on can, involve permadeath. Much like popular highly replayable games of today like Hades and Vampire Survivors, Tales of Maj'Eyal took inspiration from the true godfather of replayability itself, Rogue, although in a much more immediately apparent sense than the aforementioned.
You see, back in my day, we didn't have all these fancy schmancy RTX ray tracing computers. We had these things called ASCII games. Games where the graphics were made up from nothing but Unicode and sweet imagination. God, you youngins are so spoiled nowadays with your Fort bikes and your Pokemons. At least that's what my kids call them. Well, anyway, we had to make do with what we were given, and the first real ASCII game that hooked me was Rogue in 1980. A procedurally generated dungeon crawler where you had to descend the floors of the dungeon all the way to the bottom. All the while you'd be collecting all kinds of loot and fighting all kinds of monsters, with each playthrough being completely unique. Ah, what a time to be young again.
Okay, Grandpa, you can go take a nap. I'll take it from here. Much like Rogue that my grandpa was just rambling about, Tales of Maj'Eyal is also a dungeon crawler, just much more modernized and heavily blended with MMO and RPG elements to give it 16 times the replayability. And while it might not look like much, you don't really need the best graphics on planet Earth to create a highly addictive, endlessly replayable gameplay loop. Looking at you, Factorio and Minecraft. The craziest part? It was developed entirely by one person starting in 2009, Dark God. You might be thinking, how could a game seemingly with the breadth and replay value of something like Skyrim be made only by one person? That doesn't make any sense. But I'm here to tell you that it's all possible due to those simple graphics you were probably laughing at earlier. Since most traditional roguelikes often don't concern themselves with spending years and years just to create a pretty world for players to look at, the developers often spend all that valuable time increasing the depth of the gameplay systems and mechanics inside them, really taking the saying gameplay over graphics to a whole new level. And the depth and breadth Dark God has managed to pack into this game has netted him many awards and mucho praise over the years, such as ASCII Dreams Roguelike of the Year award for 3 consecutive years in 2010, 2011, and 2012, as well as the currently 94% positive Steam review ratio. It used to be 95% and overwhelmingly positive. Many other YouTubers and critics like US Gamer, Splattercat Gaming, and Nucrium have also voiced their overwhelming praise for this game, saying things like,
Alright, it's Free Games Month, and Tales of Maj'Eyal is, I think, if you went out and you said this is the greatest roguelike ever made, I think many folks would probably agree with you.
as well as
Today in the world of indie games, we're going to be diving on into my most favorite roguelike of all time.
And Tales of Maj'Eyal is the pinnacle of the fantasy roguelike, coupled with a perfect review score of 100 out of 100. And now you might be seeing that when I say Tales of Maj'Eyal is one of the best and most replayable games ever made, I'm not simply talking out my ass. Many other highly acclaimed individuals also publicly agree that this is a very special game, despite its rudimentary appearance, and probably many more privately. But that's not why you're here, is it? You're not here for opinions. I mean, heck, we all have some stupid opinions, like the loot apocalypse is secretly better than Resident Evil 3. I mean, it has Ricardo Milos for crying out loud. Whoever could have an opinion that stupid? Certainly not me. You're here for facts. To learn why Tales of Maj'Eyal is the most replayable game ever made. What gameplay systems it actually has.
To make everyone glaze it like your mama's butt cheeks on a Saturday night.
Low blow, I'm sorry. Well, don't worry, because coming up next, we're going to dive right into every little detail of the wonderful world of Tales of Maj'Eyal, and why me and many others consider it the best game in the most replayable genre of games ever made. Right, so now straight into the good stuff. Let's start with the most tantalizing aspects of Tome 4 first. The wealth of races, classes, and builds available to mix and match. In total, there are 16 playable races, 13 of which being playable in the base campaign, and an additional 3 being playable in one of the game's multitude of optional expansions, Embers of Rage. And no, this isn't an EA game where they nickel and dime you at every turn. The base game's free and the expansions can regularly be picked up for a couple of dollars each, or rather generously randomly found by playing the game and being gifted it from Dark God himself. These races vary from multiple types of elves, humans, and even dwarves, all the way up to undead, giants, and beyond, and each category of race houses multiple subspecies inside them, much like how the Elder Scrolls universe has wood elves, high elves, dark elves, and so on. All these races also have their own unique talent tree, which shows up on the right hand side of the level up menu, which gives them all distinctive abilities and passives ranging from teleportation spells to speeding up player global turn speed, being able to wield 2 large weapons like great hammers at the same time, leading to tremendous damage output, as well as unique stat modifiers, experience gain thresholds, life gain on level up, and a little bit of lore, you know, to make him a little more saucy. And if all that sounds fun, it absolutely is. But the craziest part is that races are actually pretty tame compared to many other aspects of the game. For example, the classes. Whenever you boot up a new game of Tales of Maj'Eyal, you're taken straight to the character creation menu. And while, yes, you are given the option to select a race on the left hand side of the screen, you're also bombarded with a truly ludicrous amount of class options. Well, I am. Plebs like you won't be, since you have to unlock them all by playing naturally. But that's probably for the best, since you would get lobotomized in a matter of seconds if you tried to comprehend all of them right from the get-go. They range from pretty simple stuff like warriors and mages, all the way up to, you know, defiled demon fighters that could transform into a gigantic demon, or godlike chronomancers that can warp time and space around them to be whatever they see fit. The usual. Did I mention that, oh, there are 37 classes in this game, 29 if you only have the base game, and an additional 8 if you have all the DLCs? Much like the races, just on steroids. Don't clip that out of context. Maj'Eyal's level up menu also houses 4 different types of points that you can allocate with every new level up to your stats, class talents, generic talents, and unlocking new categories of talents altogether, as well as these things called inscriptions, which are just additional utility talents like healing, shielding, and teleports that every class starts with. The amount of variety on display is staggering to say the least, and what I said earlier about some classes being able to turn into giant demons and control time and space is just the tip of the ginormous schlong. Want to summon hordes of enemies to fight for you? Or possess enemies and bosses to steal all their talents for yourself? Or how about becoming borderline invincible, slamming enemies down with a shield in each hand? Or even build your very own class from scratch with whatever talents and stats you want? You catch my drift. The possibilities are limitless. To put things in perspective though, what I've talked about so far only scratches the surface of what makes Tales of Maj'Eyal the most replayable game of all time. There's also a Borderlands style loot system. All my Borderlands fans out there, give me a hey-oh! That includes everything from basic stinky white gear to the most powerful legendary artifacts ever made. A whole bunch of interesting quest lines follow with branching paths that can determine things like the game's ending. Rare enemies and bosses that will rip you to shreds if you're not adequately prepared, and drop nice loot to boot. Super bosses that can be fought after you beat the game, which range from ancient high-tech automatons that can one-shot even the strongest adventurers, to eldritch horrors that embody chaos itself and could turn all living matter in the universe to dust in the blink of an eye. You get my point. The main thing that makes Tales of Maj'Eyal as replayable as it is though, is not all the additional fancy stuff, but rather the basics it took directly from Rogue and the rest of the roguelike genre. Procedural generation. Every single dungeon in this game, quest line, piece of loot, enemy, etc., all of it is completely randomly generated, meaning that every single playthrough is personalized, regardless of what class or race you chose at the start. This keeps things fresh and interesting, even if you want to play the same build over and over again, like the Sasquatch you are, as you never know what equipment you'll end up with, or what stat boosting potion the Shouty Outy Hermit will give you first, or what boss you'll fight in each dungeon, or even what layout that dungeon has, as a lot of them have alternate versions that are sometimes way more deadly. You mix this with the fact that the game also has 3 different permadeath modes. Exploration, which allows you infinite lives in case you just want to learn the game and explore freely. Adventure mode, which gives you a finite amount of lives to play around with, meaning you could die sometimes, but will eventually run out.
And the hardcore gamer's choice roguelike mode, in which you die permanently as soon as your HP reaches 0. Real gamers only play roguelike mode.
Obviously I'm making fun of elitists, play whatever's most fun for you, but now you can see why so many people call this game the desert island game. The number of permutations this allows for is staggering, as each unique permadeath setting is like playing a completely different game altogether. On exploration mode, you're more incentivized to explore the world and learn about all the ins and outs of the game, although with no stakes it can get boring quite quickly. On adventure mode, you have a nice balance of consequences for your actions, but also a nice buffer so that if some bullshit happens, you don't lose 30 hours of progress. And on roguelike mode, you have to be on your tippy toes the entire time, as one wrong mistake, one wrong miscalculation can mean the end of your entire playthrough. That's often equivalent in length to the entire main campaign in most other games. The beautiful thing about this though is that you get to choose exactly how you want to play the game. Oh, I also forgot to mention there are 5 different difficulty settings on top of the existing permadeath modes that allow for even more customizability. You just like to play games casually on the side while you're watching Elysium's other YouTube videos? Easier plus exploration might be for you. Oh, you're someone who likes a bit of challenge but not so much that it can become frustrating? Nightmare plus adventure is a nice middle ground I use quite a lot. You're John Gaming, the living embodiment of peak gaming performance itself? Madness plus roguelike might be for you, although I will warn you, only around 0.2% of the game's entire player base has actually been able to beat Madness difficulty. In fact, Tales of Maj'Eyal on Madness has been coined by many as the most difficult game ever made, but that's a whole different conversation altogether. You know what they say though, difficulty equals replayability, as if you can spend thousands upon thousands of hours improving at something, it's likely that thing can bring you enjoyment and satisfaction for many years to come. Hence why streamers like Baylorlord are able to play games like Slay the Spire for way longer than you'd expect. Constant improvement is its very own form of replayability, and Tales of Maj'Eyal offers that in spades. Now, if you look around you, you may have noticed that in recent years, gaming has made quite a shift to more replayable games in general. Your friends, your family, anyone you know who games is probably playing a game right now that has a battle pass in it, seasons worth of content, and an endless treadmill to traverse. Apex Legends, CSGO, PUBG, Fortnite, Valorant, Genshin, FIFA, these are all games topping the charts across all platforms that you could consider endlessly replayable. But that replayability comes at a cost. Most gamers see replayability as a net positive, something that allows you to get more bang for your buck and hours of fun out of a game you love. But what if I told you that corporations see it a little differently? You see, for a lot of the biggest game developers in the space, think EA, Ubisoft, Microsoft and more, replayability is simply a tool that they can use to get you, the player, to spend more money. And since additional content like the aforementioned battle passes, seasons, skins and loot boxes are easy to churn out and farm player engagement like there's no tomorrow, replayability has quickly been weaponized by many companies into something that can be dangerous, often leading to addiction or worse. While a regular AAA single-player game usually costs somewhere around £60,
At least here in the UK, mate.
players of these highly replayable popular games like Apex Legends often spend hundreds or unfortunately sometimes even thousands, seeing it more as an expenditure of the value they got out of the game than a harmful habit. Companies frequently even hire psychologists to make their game's replayability principles as addictive as possible to goad players into spending more. Not to mention the fact that a lot of these games often adjust their meta around the player spending more money, such as Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, which started off as a pretty free-to-play friendly experience, but quickly became pay to get the newest meta deck while we banned the last rotation every season. With these games, you have absolutely no control, no agency over what the company who made them does, and are completely at the mercy of their sick profit-driven practices, even more so the more you play their games, as per the sunken cost fallacy. Replayability simply becomes something that keeps players hooked and spending like a drug addict that keeps going back for more, raging and screaming at every unfair death and impulse purchasing to level out the negative emotions. Now, I'm not hating on people who play these games at all. If you're having fun and you're not shirking any important responsibilities or overspending, then I say have at it. Gaming is after all supposed to be about having fun. I'm just pointing out the bleak reality many players of these games live through every day, as the companies who run them obviously know what they're doing to maximize their own profitability and engagement, not the well-being of their players. And unlike many independent game developers whose sole reason to make games is passion and fulfillment, the top dogs of the industry ruthlessly weaponize replayability as a tool to rise to the top of the charts. Not to make the best game possible, not to give players endless hours of fun, not to offer a good value proposition to their players, but rather to milk them like cows in a world where attention and time are worth their weight in gold. to keep them paying endlessly like a subscription service. I mean, think about it. There's a reason why subscription models are becoming a more popular option for businesses in general. They provide an endless amount of revenue that would far outweigh a one-time purchase while still being easy to maintain. And what are live service games that introduce new battle passes every couple of months if not a subscription? But what if I told you there was an ultimate antidote to this toxin of corporate replayability? Something that's free, has zero egregious monetization practices, no battle passes, no stupid loot boxes, no psychology professionals hired specifically to game your brain's dopamine receptors in a nefarious way. Just a man that made a game he's passionate about, and a game that's replayable only because it's fun. Tales of Maj'Eyal. And if you enjoyed that video, why not check this one out about the most profound game ever made?